The NHRA, the world's largest motorsport sanctioning body, showcasing competition with speeds in excess of 280 miles an hour and covering the quarter-mile distance in less than 5 seconds. Winston Championship Drag Racing from the NHRA. The NHRA Winston Championship Trail. 16 events throughout the U.S. and Canada featuring a $1 million payout. And each year, the 10 best drivers in each professional category are showcased in an additional competition, which is one of the richest races of the year, the Winston Allstars. Based upon the final results of the 1987 season, this event will see the awarding of close to $500,000 in prize money, all of it above and beyond the $1 million 1988 points fund. These drivers represent the very best in NHRA Championship Drag Racing, the cream of the crop, the quickest, fastest, and most consistent competitors in the sport. Today is for them, a special tribute to the skills, dedication, and championship spirit that has propelled them to this very special event, the Winston Allstars. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and welcome to the new Atlanta Dragway, located about 60 miles north of its namesake city between the municipalities of Commerce and Homer, Georgia. Performance is what got these drivers here, and performance is what eventually will determine today's winner, and in fact has already set the scene for what is about to occur. For more on that, and while these cars parade into the staging lanes, let's go to my good friend and co-commentator, Steve Evans.
Dave, you can only imagine the kind of competition we're going to see today. Consider that in the Winston All-Star fields are all 3 Winston champions from last season. Also, every NHRA national event winner is here, and every NHRA national record holder, be it speed or elapsed time. Now, qualifying was held yesterday to cut the invited 10 down to 8 cars in the 3 pro categories. Number 1, when the thunder had settled, was Darrell Gwynn in top fuel at 5:17. Remember, he has won the last 2 races on the trail. Number 1 in funny car, the national speed record holder Mike Dunn at 5.39, a career best. And number 1 in pro stock, the Ford Thunderbird of Bob Glidden at 7.41. Earlier today, I talked to all 3 of the low qualifiers. Darrell, how do you account for the hot streak you're on here at this new Atlanta Dragway?
Well, I'd have to say it's teamwork in our case here. The last couple races, Steve, we've got our act together. We kind of went for it with all of our guns loaded at the beginning of the year, and I think it did nothing but hurt us. We've settled down and got our right minds in perspective here, and I think that's what it takes. It's like a camshaft. It's got a lobe on it, and we're at the top of the lobe right now, and the only way to go is down. So our momentum is, carrying us to the top right now.
Mike, Darrell Gwynn in top fuel says he's on top right now, and unfortunately the only way for him to go is down. In your case, with low elapsed time for the first time, you're on the way up.
Yeah, that's right. That 5:39 helped out. We haven't ran in about 2 months, so to come out here and run as good as we have, we're real happy with it. We've been trying to get the ET down, and it's come around here, and the mile an hour is coming back with it, so I think we'll be pretty tough.
Bob, Darrell Gwynn describes himself as being on top of the mountain and hoping not to get knocked off. Mike Dunn in funny car is trying to assault the mountain. How does Bob Glidden feel?
We've been all the way down to the bottom of the mountain. I'm not sure where we are right at the moment. This weekend is really the first weekend we've run consistently all year. We've made 3 really great runs, really, I think. 7:43, 42, and then a 41 last night. So we're certainly not at the top. I don't think we're at the very bottom right now, but maybe working our way back up.
And as the top fuel drivers strap in for the first round, they're not thinking about Winston points. There's 9 more races for that to happen. They're not thinking about national records. They're thinking about cold, hard cash. $50,000 to the winner in top fuel, a like amount in funny car, and a record $30,000 to the winner in pro stock.
Steve, action is underway at the 2nd annual Winston All-Stars, with the first pair of cars being our top fuel dragster competition. Frank Bradley, driving the Enco Farm Special, comes to us from Orange, California. He qualified in the number 4 spot. That earned Bradley the right to select his lane of racing. His choice was the far lane of the track, putting Dan Pastorini driving the Coors Light Silver Bullet in the near lane. In the Winston All-Star competition a year ago, it was Pastorini racing against Dick LaHaye for the top prize. Pastorini came out as runner-up. The 42-year-old Frank Bradley has 2 Winston Series championships to his credit. His first one dates as far back as 1976. For Dan Pastorini, he won his first ever NHRA National Event title on this racetrack 2 years ago when he won the Southern Nationals Championship. At that time, Jim Brissett was Pastorini's crew chief. After sitting out the last half of last season and the first half of this year, Brissett has just rejoined the Pastorini team. A good start. And something goes wrong. The supercharger drive belt comes off Bradley's car, and Pastorini is into the semifinals. All the work by Jim Brissett and the crew has obviously paid off for Pastorini. His time, 5.36 seconds. His speed, over 265 miles an hour. And what a disappointment it has to be for Frank Bradley. This is Gene Snow, always an innovator in over 20 years of competition. His latest car, this 290-inch wheelbase entry, is no exception. It has no transmission, but uses only the multi-stage clutch. This is the man that won it all last season. This is Dick LaHaye. Not only did he take home the big bucks in the Winston All-Star competition, but he won the most coveted title of all, that of Winston Top Fuel Champion. LaHaye qualified in the number 3 spot, one of his best showings thus far this season. Let's go to Steve at the far end of the track.
Well, when the big money's up, the big man shines. Dan Pastorini, you made it to the finals of this race last year, and you're one step closer at 5:36.
That's great. That's the best we've ever run here at this track, Steve, and that's the best we've run in a long time. I can't say enough for the guys. They do a great job. Jimmy's come on here recently and has got this thing singing pretty good.
No, I don't care what's...
This is rare for me. This is the first round in competition I've won this year. I hope it's the first of many.
Let's hope it continues. Dan Pastorini, he goes to the semifinals.
Pastorini obviously pleased with the performance that he's found under his new crew chief. Dick LaHaye is searching for some newfound performance also. He has had problems since his winter national season opening victory. He has switched back to the engine transmission combination he used a year ago. Gene Snow, as he has so many times before, is trying something just a little bit different. Taking the multi-stage clutch, high gear-only combination that has been tried by other Top Fuel and funny car racers over the past couple of years, Snow has had mixed results with it. He qualified here in the number 7 spot. That gave the lane choice to the number 3 qualifier, LaHaye, who is using the smaller engine combination that he was so successful with last season. This is the second race in a row that the quicker qualifier has taken the far lane. A great start, and Snow has the front wheels in the air and just drives away from the defending champion. Look at the elapsed time, 5.15 seconds at 269 miles an hour. Gene Snow with the quickest time of the meet thus far. Let's look again and see exactly how it happened. Snow had a very slight advantage at the start. And that near lane yielding perfect conditions for Snow's car. As he moved on down track, he steadily pulled away from LaHaye with the front wheels off the ground. Snow making the move from this point to the finish line that gave him the big first round victory and put him into the semifinals.
Well, the big story at this very moment is actually the absence of something. A 2-speed transmission in Gene Snow's car. There isn't one. That's just a reverser and a shaft to the rear end. And Gene Snow, low elapsed time of the event, 5:15, high gear only.
I'm excited beyond belief. It's wonderful. Bob Brooks with AFT, Emily, my sponsor, the crew, everything's really coming around. We're excited. Thank you.
And you were the guy that's talked for 2 years about doing this, and you finally had the courage to do it.
Yeah, we finally tried it. Remember, we did it in '68 with a funny car, and it still works.
The clutches have made this possible.
Oh, yeah, the multi-stage, the 4-disc and everything. Bob Brooks with AFT, he figured it out. It all works wonderful.
5:15, heat of the day. Doesn't get much better.
That's what we were looking for.
Oh, Gene Snow go to the semis. What a story this is turning out to be.
Thank you.
Steve, Gene Snow may well be on to something here. The 1988 NHRA Winston All-Stars are being brought to you by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference. And by Fram Bendix Auto Line, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive. We'll be coming right back to the new Atlanta Dragway in the Winston Allstars.
Why does the Ford Thunderbird of Pro Stock champion Bob Glidden race on Goodyear Eagles? Exclusively because of the way Goodyear Eagles respond to the track. And why does Ford choose Goodyear Eagle street radials for every new Thunderbird Turbo Coupe? A major reason is the Goodyear Eagle contact patch, where the car ultimately responds to the road. Goodyear Eagles, because there really is a difference.
Tradition of horsepower. For the second consecutive year, Budweiser racing teams captured 3 national championships. Bobby Rahal in the Bud Indy car. Kenny Bernstein in the Budweiser King. And Jim Cropfeld in Miss Budweiser. It's a tradition of horsepower that keeps Budweiser ahead of the pack. Racing fans,
back at the NHRA Winston Allstars at the new Atlanta Dragway, you're riding in the car with Eddie Hill as he prepares to do the burnout, heating up those huge 17-inch wide tires, getting them just as clean and hot as possible so they can get the best grip available on the pavement. Hill's competition, Joe Amato. For many a year, folks have wondered what is the actual horsepower of one of these nitro-burning engines. Well, it took the electronic age to figure it out. Earlier, Steve was in Eddie Hill's pit to get the story.
According to an article in the newest National Dragster, NHRA's weekly newspaper that is the Bible of this sport, our latest estimates of 3,000 horsepower in these top fuel dragsters may of all things be low. See the cover blurb there? Well, on page number 22 is a very interesting article by a very respected computer expert named Patrick Hale, who for the last couple of years has been very successful in predicting performance. Now, he took his computer software and into his PC, he fed all the information on Eddie Hill's 5.06 record-breaking run early this year in Gainesville, Florida. Now, we knew the elapsed time at 60 feet, 330 feet the eighth mile, and of course the quarter mile. Eddie volunteered the rear axle ratio and the transmission underdrive ratio. Also, known commodities was the temperature when the run was made, the relative altitude, the air density, all those things that are so important. And according to Mr. Hale's computer, Eddie Hill at half track on that run made over 4,100 horsepower. The engine never made less than 3,500 horsepower, and it left the starting line with an astounding 3,000 foot-pounds of torque. I asked some of the drivers, including Joe Amato, if they believe this. Joe said, yeah, it's possible. He said, but what I want to know is not that he made 4,000, how did he make it? Well, Joe, that you'll have to figure out all by yourself. Well, Mac, are you ready to say it? Here they come, 4,000 horsepower top fuel dragsters.
Steve, it rolls off the tongue real nicely. 4,000 horsepower. And if any man could figure it out, it is the crew chief for Joe Amato, Tim Richards. He put him in the number 2 qualifying spot. That gave him the right to select the lane in his race against Eddie Hill, the number 6 qualifier. And Amato in the TRW special has taken the far lane. Hill had mechanical problems all day qualifying, making the show on his last attempt. Look at the G-forces push Eddie Hill back in the cockpit. And by a couple of feet, Eddie Hill advances to the semifinals. What a tremendous race. The winning time, 5.16 seconds at 277 miles an hour. The losing time, a 5.18 at over 285 miles an hour. Eddie Hill had a slight advantage at the start, and that was just enough to keep him ahead of Joe Amato, as Amato thundered at the top end of the racetrack, turning top speed of the meet at over 285.
Well, the first words out of Eddie Hill's mouth were, we did win that one, didn't we? Yes, you did. Good driving, good performance, 5.16.
5:16. All right.
Where did you ever run here?
Oh, man, that's great. Well, that's close to Snow. Snow run 15, we run 16.
You struggled in qualifying.
Oh, did we ever, man? The fuel pump problem has been killing us for a month, it seems like. Maybe we're back on track finally.
Back at the starting line, Gary Ormsby drives his Castrol GTX Special through a puddle of water. That allows those big tires to break traction very easily. Of course, with 4,000 horsepower, you don't need a whole lot of water. Racing against Ormsby is Darrell Gwynn, 26 years old, out of Miami, Florida. Gwynn 10 times has visited the winner's circle at NHRA Winston Championship events. He is the #1 qualifier and has selected the far lane, even though the 3 previous races all have been won in the near lane and low ET of the meet established by Gene Snow. Darrell Gwynn, the #1 qualifier. Gary Ormsby qualified in the #5 spot. For 22 years, Ormsby has been challenging racers and racetracks around the United States. He has 2 wins to his credit, the first coming in 1984. Gwynn at the wheel of the Budweiser car has got to be thinking about last year's Winston Allstars, where he also was the #1 qualifier, but lost in the first round, at that time, to Dick LaHaye. Now, Gary Ormsby comes into the staging beam, and Ormsby's off the starting line first, a hole shot. But Gwynn outpowers him. New low ET of the meet, 5.13 seconds. His speed over 278 miles an hour. And Darrell Gwynn goes into the semifinals. As we look again, you see the advantage that Gary Ormsby gained by virtue of the quicker reaction times. But the thing to watch is the car in the far lane and the horsepower developed. Ormsby had a very creditable 5:21 at over 282 miles an hour, but that wasn't enough. Darrell Gwynn advances to the semifinals to race against Gene Snow, with Gwynn and his 5:13 earning the lane choice. The other pair finds Eddie Hill against Dan Pastorini, Hill having the choice of lane. Let's go to Steve.
Well, Darrell, you saw the 15 of Gene Snow. You saw the 16 of Eddie Hill, and you raised the ante 5:13.
I was really worried sitting there behind the starting line. I'm really pleased at the 5:13. I saw Snow's 5:15. These guys are playing serious hardball today. 50 grand. The Winston payout, we're going to go for it today.
And so is this man, Dan Pastorini, along with his crew, preparing that 4,000 horsepower engine to get set for the semifinal race against Eddie Hill. That'll be coming up in just a little bit here at the new Atlanta Dragway. Right now it is time for round #1 of funny car competition. This is the Oldsmobile bodied creation owned by Joe Pisano and driven by Mike Dunn, your #1 qualifier. Using an engine and drivetrain combination very similar to their top fuel counterparts, Mike Dunn faces off against Billy Meyer. This is the first time in over 6 months that Billy Meyer has been in his race car. He retired from driving at the end of last season when he finished #6 in the Winston Championship competition. That earned him the right to race here at the Winston Allstars, but the rules say the points go with the driver. And thus, Billy Meyer of Waco, Texas, had to return to the cockpit of the Chief Auto Parts Oldsmobile. Mike Dunn, with the quickest time of his career, 5.39 seconds, has got to be considered the favorite in this race. He's the #1 qualifier, has the choice of lane, and has selected the far lane of the racetrack. Both drivers now beginning the procedure of concentrating on the start. As we have seen, the reaction time off the starting line can be the margin of victory down the quarter-mile racetrack. Both cars set. Dunn is gone. Some problems for Billy Meyer. His car could not leave the starting line, and Mike Dunn advances into the semifinals. His time of 5:45 at over 274 miles an hour. Pulling away from the starting line like he's on a Sunday afternoon drive. This has got to be a very frustrating moment for Billy Meyer. returning to the cockpit of the funny car that has already carried him to 12 Winston Championship victories throughout a long career that dates back to his very first in 1977. Billy Meyer had to sit and watch his hopes for a $50,000 payday evaporate. As Billy Meyer takes the first turnoff, our number 2 qualifier approaches the starting line to lay down a track of rubber across that concrete surface. This is Ed McCulloch from Hemet, California. His competition, one of the most feared racers in all of funny cars, Don Prudhomme. Let's go to Steve with Mike Judd.
Well, Mike, how would you feel about a 5:45 in the heat of the day?
Yeah, that was a good run. It went out there and shook a little bit, just before it locked up the clutch. So we had the same problem the first qualifying run yesterday. So we'll probably make the necessary changes, get rid of that shake, and it'll drop down a little bit for next round.
Once again, the quicker elapsed time during qualifying is given the choice of lanes to Ed McCulloch, and he has selected the far lane of the racetrack. But don't forget the good times turned in the near lane by folks like Eddie Hill and Gene Snow. Don Prudhomme has got to be thinking about them as he challenges Ed McCulloch. If anybody has got to be considered a strong favorite, it is McCulloch, who won on this racetrack just a couple of months ago when he took home the Southern Nationals title. Both cars are set. And Prudhomme loses traction. McCulloch wins it, the quickest ET of eliminations in funny car. 5.44 seconds, 273 miles an hour. That moves him into the semifinals. Meanwhile, back in the top fuel pit, this team and race car are in the semifinals to race against Darrell Gwynn. Gene Snow and crew performing green round maintenance. We'll be coming right back to the Winston Allstars. We're back at the new Atlanta Dragway near Commerce, Georgia, and the second annual Winston All-Stars. The NHRA Championship drag racing excitement moves to Englishtown, New Jersey for the 19th annual running of the famed Summer Nationals coming up July 14th through the 17th. Make sure to call for complete ticket information on the Summer Nationals. Kenny Bernstein, the Budweiser King, qualified number 3, has selected the far lane of the racetrack. Simultaneously, 8,000 horsepower thunders across the starting line, laying down tracks of rubber in each lane as John Force in the Castrol GTX car pops up the emergency escape hatch on the roof of that Oldsmobile and begins to back up into his own tracks. The 43-year-old Bernstein is the defending Winston All-Stars champion. John Force has been on this racetrack in a final round appearance already this season. He was runner-up at the Southern Nationals to Ed McCulloch back in April. Force is still looking for his first 1988 win. Meantime, Bernstein has already been in the winner's circle this season. He won the Gator Nationals down in Gainesville, Florida. Bernstein very active in motorsports. He campaigns a team in IndyCar racing and also in NASCAR Winston Cup competition. A high point in the career of John Force came just a few months ago on this same racetrack at the Southern Nationals when he defeated Kenny Bernstein for the first time ever. But that was then, and this is now. $50,000 going to the winner here at the Winston All-Stars. Bernstein with the lead. Bernstein close to the center line, and he drives away from it, and Bernstein with the low elapsed time of elimination at 5.43 seconds. His speed, 257 miles an hour, easily outdistanced John Force. As we look at the run once again, we will have the opportunity to see just how close Kenny Bernstein gets to the center line. The NHRA rules say a tire must cross that yellow stripe in the center of the track to disqualify a driver. Bernstein with the front end just bouncing, drives a tightrope, stays off the center line, and wins.
Well, the most used part on this car on that run had to be the steering wheel. Kenny Bernstein, the NHRA officials have just checked the center line. You're good. You did not cross it. There was some doubt.
Yeah, definitely doubt with me, too. It just took a move down there and moved over next to it, and it just was a handful. I just couldn't hardly handle it.
I had the wheel cocked to the right as hard as it'd go, and it finally came back. But I don't know why it took a move like that down there. I haven't had one do that in a long time.
Want a piece of good news? Low ET of eliminations 543.
Oh, super. Well, they're all right together, so we can fight for the second round here a little bit.
Incredibly close racing thus far. A 5:45, a 44, and a 43, with 2 cars remaining in the first round. Mark Oswald driving the Motorcraft Thunderbird from the team of Candies and Hughes, qualified number 8. Mark had problems just getting the car into the show. Oswald is racing a second-generation driver, 26-year-old Scott Coletta, the son of the top fuel driver, Connie. Scott is driving the Coletta Flying Services racing team Oldsmobile. Final stage, and a great start for Oswald. Coletta smokes the tires, and Oswald wins it. Car owner Paul Candies not looking too pleased with the 5.55 second elapsed time. He knows it's about a 10th off the pace set by the other 3 semifinalists. Mark Oswald will race against Ed McCulloch. McCulloch having the choice of lanes, while the second pair finds the number 1 qualifier, Mike Dunn, against Kenny Bernstein, who's got the low ET of eliminations, and Bernstein has lane choice. In Eddie Hill's pit area, a crewman making the final adjustments to the fuel distribution system as that Super Shop Pennzoil Special gets set to go against Dan Pastorini in the semifinals. Now on the starting line, it is time for Pro Stock Eliminator. Referred to as the factory hot rods, these are cars that very closely resemble their counterparts that are driven on the streets of America every day. Joe Lapone drives a Chevrolet Camaro. He's in the far lane. In the near lane is Reed Wisnett. Reed has lots of fans as he hails from the Atlanta suburb of Hapeville and comes out of the sponsorship of the Baglady Inc. His competition is Joe Lapone Jr., who calls Newtown Square, Pennsylvania home base and qualified here at the Winston All-Star Championship in the number 4 spot. As you will note, Lapone has taken the far side of the racetrack, following in the footsteps of the top fuel and funny car racers that preceded him. Wisnett, noted for quick reaction times off the starting line, as is Lapone, and Lapone gets the advantage. Identical elapsed time, 7.51 seconds, but a monstrous hole shot by Joe Lapone gives him the margin of victory and advances him to the semifinal. The crewman replacing the oil pan on Mike Dunn's Oldsmobile as he gets set for the semifinal race with Kenny Bernstein. That'll be coming up later at the Winston All-Stars. Back at the NHRA Winston All-Stars at the new Atlanta Dragway, I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and we're watching the crew on Ed McCulloch's Oldsmobile prepare his car for the semifinals where he races against Mark Oswald. We're in the first round of Pro Stock Eliminator competition, aiming for $30,000 first prize, the biggest in the history of Pro Stock racing. Bruce Allen, the most recent winner on the NHRA National Event Trail, is in the near lane of the racetrack. He was put there by Nick Nicholas, the driver of the Pontiac Firebird, who qualified in the number 3 position. Bruce Allen had his share of problems making the program, only in the number 7 spot with that Levi Garrett Chevy Beretta out of the Rare and Morrison shop in Arlington, Texas. A green light start. And it's an upset. Bruce Allen outdrives and outruns Nick Nicholas, a 7.53 second elapsed time. His speed, 185 miles an hour. On the starting line, 2 more race cars going through the burnout procedure. Warren Johnson, the driver of the AC Delco Oldsmobile, will be matched against the Pontiac, driven by Jerry Ekman. Once again, the lane choice procedure runs true to form as it has all day. The quicker of the qualifiers has selected the lane the furthest from the camera. Let's go to the far end of the track where Steve is with Bruce Allen.
Good driving and lots of horsepower paid off. A 753 to Nick's 755.
Yeah, we're a little off here. The track's a little rough, and for our setup, we're bouncing down through there, but
hey, what can you say? I mean, it's got down here before Nick. That's what counts.
Warren Johnson has been in the winner's circle on this racetrack already this season when the Oldsmobile won the Southern Nationals Championship. For Jerry Ekman, we have to go back a year ago to the Summer Nationals 1987 when he won his first and only NHRA National Event title. And a great start. Jerry Ekman pulls ahead and upsets the number 2 qualifier to advance into the semifinals. Jerry Ekman with a 7.54 second elapsed time. Again, the racing as it is in all categories, very, very close for the Pro Stock. The number 1 qualifier, Bob Glidden, with the choice of lanes, has put Kenny Delco and his Pontiac over here in the near lane. But Delco's got to have a feeling of confidence having watched the 2 previous winners come right off his starting line. Steve?
You want to see a big California smile? Jerry Ekman, that has got to be the biggest upset thus far in the 3 pro categories. Your 754 beat his 59.
Well, great, Steve. I'm certainly happy to beat a man like Warren. Not so much to beat him, but to race him and when he's a tough competitor. And we've been running real good ourselves lately, and I got to give credit to our crew because it's about time we get in the winner's circle.
This is one of those classic battles between makes. The Motorcraft T-Bird against the Flip Speed Shop Pontiac. Glidden, 60 national event wins to his credit. Kenny Delco still looking for his first. The RPMs begin to mount. The engine's limited to 500 cubic inches. And Glidden pulls ahead right at the finish line, and in a close race wins it 7.44 seconds at over 186 miles an hour by a 1/10 of a second. Bob Glidden is the class of the field. It'll be Ford versus Chevy in the semifinals as Bob Glidden races Bruce Allen. The other pair matches the Pontiac of Jerry Ekman against Joe LaBone's Chevy. LaBone chooses the lane. Steve?
Power prevailed, a 7:44 low elapsed time of eliminations.
You know, it's about time. We've been, as you know, we've been struggling all year long. I think we've won 2 rounds of NHRA competition all year, and it couldn't be better here at the Winston All-Star race to come around and run like we think we should run.
Your wife had told me you actually went backwards to find performance.
Well, I don't know that that's the right word, backwards. We went back 4 or 5 years to a clutch combination we once ran, and really that's what's in the car right now, and we made another perfect run.
You're pleased, I can tell.
We need 2 more.
2 more for $30,000.
The semifinals coming up next at the Winston All-Stars. Don't go away. At the Winston All-Stars at the new Atlanta Dragway, the crew for Kenny Bernstein's Buick continue the preparations of that racing engine. This car is the quickest money car in eliminations thus far. We're riding once again with Eddie Hill as he approaches the starting line for his burnout in preparation for the semifinal race against Dan Pastorini. On paper, Eddie Hill has got 0.2 of a second advantage over Pastorini, and Hill selected the lane furthest from the camera, opposite of his winning lane the previous round. Now, for another Quaker State Quick Fact, let's join Steve Evans.
Often, you'll hear drag races refer to the finish line area as the traps, and that's because the speed is actually determined by a speed trap. 66 feet forward of the finish line is an electronic beam. Driving through that beam starts the speed computer. Now, the next electronic beam is right at the quarter-mile mark. Here's where races are won or lost. But for maximum speed, you must accelerate past the finish line another 66 feet to that final beam. It's the time through this trap that the computer uses to determine the average miles per hour through the trap or that attained at the finish line. Now, often you'll see a very quick run with a seemingly slow speed because the driver is trying to save the engine. As soon as he crosses the finish line, it is shut down, the parachute hits, the car very rapidly decelerates, hence a slow speed corresponding to the elapsed time. But let's face it, it is elapsed times that win drag races, but there's something special about speed. You can say, I go the quarter mile in 5 seconds, and people go, oh, that's good. At 280 miles per hour, oh, that's fast.
The man in the far lane of this racetrack knows what fast is all about. He's run over 288 miles an hour, and I'm talking about Eddie Hill, racing against Dan Pastorini for the right to race for $50,000. Eddie Hill pulling the levers and making the gear changes. He goes through the quarter mile. His elapsed time, 5.29 seconds. That's considerably off the pace of a 5:16 of the previous round, but good enough to beat Dan Pastorini and advance Eddie Hill to the finals of the Winston Allstars. He will be racing one of these two cars, either the #1 qualifier, Darrell Gwynn, who is also the quickest car on the racetrack today with a 5:13, or Gene Snow from Fort Worth, Texas, who has a 5:15 to his credit. Snow really can't be terribly concerned about the choice of lanes, even though he did not have it, because with that 5:15 and a win in the previous round, he is confident that this lane will hold all the horsepower that machine can make. Steve's at the far end with Eddie Hill.
You're going into the final round for $50,000 of Winston's money.
I couldn't be happier, man. We're guaranteed 15, no matter what. This is terrific. This is terrific.
Okay, Eddie.
We're having a great time.
So are we watching you. Good luck, my friend.
Thank you.
Steve, that's not bad runner-up money. Look out on the racetrack. Problems with Darrell Gwynn's car. He is out of the race car, jumping up on top of the guardrail. Darrell Gwynn, something going wrong with the vehicle. He strips off the driving gloves as the crew pushes the car back into the staging lane. And for Gene Snow, what a break. He gets an uncontested run to the final round to race for $50,000. Gene Snow testing the racetrack and finding it lacking. Tire smoke sets in. That indicates a loss of traction. But nonetheless, it is a big win for Gene Snow as Darrell Gwynn, the man that had low ET, knowing he was the hottest car on the racetrack, has got to be frustrated with this mechanical failure. Eddie Hill will race Gene Snow in the finals. Hill having the lane choice as they square off for 50 grand. As the engine goes back together in Mark Oswald's funny car, we've got 4 semi-finalists getting ready to meet on the new Atlanta Dragway quarter mile at the Winston Allstars. Welcome back to the new Atlanta Dragway and the Winston Allstars. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and we're right at the start of the semi-final round of competition for Funny Car Eliminator. Kenny Bernstein, the quickest car in elimination, strapped into that cockpit of that Buick as he approaches the starting line to battle against the #1 qualifier, Mike Dunn in the Oldsmobile. The lane choice went to Bernstein, and Dunn has got to be thinking about Gene Snow's run just a few moments ago when he literally overpowered the racetrack. And Dunn does the same thing. Kenny Bernstein moves into the finals with the quickest elapsed time of the day, 5.40 seconds, as his competition, Mike Dunn, lost traction just a few hundred feet down the track and was forced to shut off. The remaining pair, Ed McCulloch in the Oldsmobile. This car out of the Larry Minor Racing Team in Hemet, California, finished #3 in the Winston Championship points chase last season. The big red car of Gandy's and Hughes from Houma, Louisiana, finished #2 to Kenny Bernstein last season. Oswald won it in 1984. Since then, it's been all Bernstein. Steve?
Low ET of eliminations, 540.
Oh, super, especially out here in the hot and the heat of the day, and the racetrack's warm and everything. Hats off to the Budweiser King team. They did a super job.
Any problems en route?
Again, a handful again at this end, and what's happening is it's picking the front end up down here when the third stage clutch comes in, and it's hitting a dip and upsetting the car, and I had to steer it hard that time, like not quite as bad as the first, but I was ready for it this time, whereas the first time I wasn't ready.
While that lane may be the one of choice to our racers, it is not without its problems, particularly for Kenny Bernstein. Now Ed McCulloch challenges the far lane and Mark Oswald. Both cars into the staging beams. A green light start, and instant smoke for Ed McCulloch. Oh, Steve, with a smile on his face, knows that his driver, Mark Oswald, will once again get to race against Kenny Bernstein in the finals. Still off the pace is Oswald. 5.52 seconds is the elapsed time. That's 0.12 of a second slower than the time turned by Kenny Bernstein. That difference gives Bernstein the lane choice in the finals. Back in Eddie Hill's pit area, crew chief Fuzzy Carter underneath the car, performing the maintenance as they replace the pistons and rods inside the engine. Steve?
Mark, after what you saw in Top Fuel and Funny Car that preceded you, what were your thoughts when you went up to stage in that near lane?
Well, you know, we thought the track might be going away in the left lane a little bit, so we didn't come out real hard, but we've been kind of coming from behind all weekend. You know, when you start out, your first couple runs aren't quite what you want. You know, we knew the problem, but when you get into the race, you can't just jump, you know, right in there and try to fix it like you could in qualifying. We're kind of stepping easy, and both rounds we stepped up, even in the bad lane, so if we can do that one more time, we might have a chance.
There'll be no stepping easy against Bernstein, not for $50,000.
No, he ran a 40 flat. He's awful strong all the time. He'll be hard to beat.
More semifinal racing coming up next at the Winston Allstars. At the Winston Allstars, the burnouts are complete for this pair of semifinalists in Pro Stock Eliminator. In the near lane, the Pennzoil Pontiac out of Bill Orndorff racing. Jerry Ekman, the driver, going off against the easy wider Camaro of Joe Latone Jr. Both cars weighing no less than 2,350 pounds with the driver on board, and a great start. A gigantic hole shot for Jerry Ekman pays off at the finish line. 7.51 seconds, 185 miles an hour. Ekman is one of the two finalists that will go off for the richest prize ever in Pro Stock racing, $30,000 cash. He'll be racing either the Chevrolet of Bruce Allen or the Ford of Bob Glidden. As the preparations continue for this semifinal race, let's go to the far end of the track.
Well, it's moments like this that car owner Bill Orndorff remembers why he hired this man in the yellow shirt. Jerry Ekman, a whole shot did it. Your 751 defeated his 748. Great job.
Thank you, Steve. It's about time. I've been a little lax there lately, and we've been working on it to try to pick that up, so I'm just fortunate enough to get it by on this race.
Steve, while you and Jerry look on, this is the classic Ford versus Chevrolet struggle that has prevailed for so many years in Pro Stock. Bob Glidden in the far lane, Bruce Allen in the near lane. Allen's got a slight advantage at the start, but by half a car length, Bob Glidden pulls around him. 7.49 seconds, his speed a whopping 187 miles an hour. As we look again, you can see Bruce Allen just a fraction of a second ahead of Bob Glidden off the starting line. But as they continued on down track, Bruce Allen saw that lead evaporate as Bob Glidden and the power of the Thunderbird began to pull ahead until at the finish line, by a half a car length, Bob Glidden moves into the finals to race Jerry Ekman. That performance of a 7.49 second for Glidden gives him the choice of lanes over Jerry Ekman, who had a 7.51. It may not be important now, but it could be at the time of the finals. Gene Snow getting set to race Eddie Hill as the professional finals are coming up next at the Winston Allstars. 3 races remain at the second annual Winston Allstars, and before we get to the start of that competition, Steve Evans has a very special guest.
Dave, with the finals only moments away, look at what we have down here at the far end. Big checks for big bucks from Winston. $30,000 for Pro Stock, $50,000 each for the winners of Top Fuel and Funny Car. And with me is an old friend of ours, Wayne Robertson, Senior Vice President with R.J. Reynolds in the Winston brand. And Wayne, what an exciting day this has been. The racers have been doing anything to win this money.
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, the competition's been fantastic. $130,000, the largest payday in cumulative for all 3 of the pro categories, and we're excited about this weekend.
And this is only the second year for the Winston Allstars. What a future this event has.
Well, this is an event designed to be the best of the best, and I think the competition yesterday and today has certainly proved with the closeness of our times that the competition is here. We do have the best of the best, and it's a fan appreciation event. We want to hear from the fans. We want to know what they want to see, and this is a special event.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you, Steve.
The term special event may be an understatement in Pro Stock Eliminator. With $30,000 at stake on this single run, that is the largest purse ever made in Pro Stock Eliminator. And fitting, it should be Bob Glidden, the reigning Winston champion, in the far lane, battling Jerry Ekman, the underdog. To beat Bob Glidden. Jerry Ekman, 7.55 seconds. Bob Glidden, a 7.49 second elapsed time. Look at the replay and watch what happened. You saw Jerry Ekman in the Pontiac move first. He has a good lead at this point on the racetrack. Then, as they continued on down the racing surface, Bob Glidden and the Ford began to nibble away at Jerry Ekman's lead until Bob Glidden ran out of racetrack and Ekman won.
Did I win this?
You won this. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the Winston Allstars Pro Stock champion, the winner of $30,000, Jerry Ekman.
Oh, thank you, Steve. What a thrill. I'm so excited that Winston gave us the opportunity to do this. And I'm excited for my team, for Pennzoil, Pontiac, Stratford Motor Products, and the whole group that makes this possible for me to drive this.
I'm proud of you. Another hole shot, a 7:55 defeats a 7:49. The Pontiac helped. You won the race.
Thank you very much, Steve. We've been working on that, and it looks like it paid off.
Paid off big today for Jerry Ekman. On the starting line, 2 red cars. The finalists in Funny Car Eliminator, a battle that has been going on now for some 4 years between these 2 teams and drivers. In the far lane of the track, Kenny Bernstein, Mark Oswald in the near lane. And Bernstein has problems, and Mark Oswald wins the race. Kenny Bernstein once again had handling problems, and Mark Oswald with a 5.52 second elapsed time, the picture of consistency all day long, defeats Kenny Bernstein and wins $50,000. As you can see in the replay, Kenny Bernstein once again has handling problems on the top end of the track. He had the lead at this point and then was forced to lift. That left Mark Oswald by.
A classic drag race. Both drivers recording identical 5:52 elapsed times, but you, Mark Oswald, had the reaction time and have just won $50,000 from Winston. Congratulations.
Well, you know, we couldn't be happier with the Winston involvement. You know, they've put drag racing where they are today. And our sponsors, Motorcraft and Stroh's, you know, they didn't hurt us any either, so we're not quite used to winning like this way. We kind of came from behind. We came from the number 8 position, and we just improved a little bit every time, and it was enough, you know, and anytime you can beat somebody in a team like Kenny Bernstein's, you know, with all that talent, you know, what makes us real happy.
Top Fuel Final coming up next at the Winston All-Stars.
Diamond P's NHRA Championship Drag Racing 87 brings you non-stop action. All the action, all the records, all the color in one non-stop 80-minute action-packed video. This is it, the tape of all seasons for the NHRA Season of All Seasons, Diamond P's Drag Racing 87. To get your copy of Drag Racing 87, call 1-800-221-2200 or send a check or money order to this address. Drag Racing 87, just $39.95 plus $3.50 shipping and handling. Call 1-800-221-2200 now.
When was the last time you had the kind of car to bring the road alive? Have you driven a Ford? Then you don't know what you're missing. Have you driven a Ford?
Is set for the challenge of the Winston All-Stars. $50,000 is the prize awaiting one of these 2 drivers at the end of a quarter-mile drag strip. Eddie Hill in the far lane, Gene Snow in the near lane. You're riding with Hill. Through the trap, Gene Snow in the fastest speed of his career, 282 miles an hour, but most importantly, he got there first. 5.14 seconds and $50,000 $1,000 richer is Gene Snow as he defeats Eddie Hill for the Top Fuel Championship at the Winston All-Stars. Hill actually had the advantage off the starting line, as we see in the replay. But at the finish line, look at Gene Snow and the move he made.
David, Gene Snow has just made $10,000 a second for his final round effort of 5:14.
Wow. I don't know what to say. I just can't believe it all came out just like this right now.
No, I asked if you were going to back down the motor, and you said no. Make all the horsepower you can and corral it.
That's what we tried to do. Joe Paisano said it, and we let the clutch slip and made the power, and it worked. It's wonderful.
And a little bit of contemporary history. How long has it been since a high-gear-only car won an event?
In 1968, when we did it in the funny car. Hey, I'm proud of my friend Eddie. Great Texas final. Winston, NHRA, my great crew, Chris Eckert, the crew chief, everybody. It's wonderful. Thank you, guys.
Our congratulations to all the winners. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClelland saying so long from the new Atlanta Dragway. The 1988 NHRA Winston All-Stars have been brought to you by Fram, Bendix Autolite, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive, and by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is